guys, what's up? Thanks for coming back. I'm super excited. We had a great episode last night, and today we're joined by another great guest. So we'll just wait for this great guest to join this live stream, and then we'll get going on episode 10. Hope you're all having a great Friday. Boom! Here he is straight away. Let's bring the guest onto camera. Make sure you're tuning in. This is gonna be good. Hey, what's up, dude?
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Good. How's the audio on your end?
I'm getting mixed audio, but I can figure that out on my end here.
Okay, cause you sound really good at this end.
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
I can hear you clear.
Okay.
Just following up. So.
Okay, cool. Let's do this.
Perfect.
All right. Hi guys.
I can figure that out on my end here. What's going on here?
Let's give it a couple minutes. See if you can figure it out.
Figured it out. Okay.
Cool. All right. Let's do this. All right, guys. Welcome to Teawithmike, episode number 10. Joining me today is Matt Strickland, aka Restricted Music. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Cool. So, of course, if you watch previous episodes of Teawithmike, you know that I'm always going to ask what is going to be the signature question of the show before we go free flow, and that is, what is your favorite type of tea and why?
I'm one of the traditional kind with the black tea, orange pico style teas. It's what I've had since I was a child, and it's what I like. So. Yeah, I'd say black tea for sure. Various black tea. It depends on how I feel in the day, though.
Do you want to elaborate a little more? How do you feel in the day? What are you different like moods? What reflects different teas?
Depends on whether I'm tired. First of all, whether or not I want to just relax for the day, have sort of a breakfast tea, or one just throughout the day to keep me going. So I don't drink a lot of coffee. Tea is definitely my thing to do, and so I like to stick with that and go from there.
Awesome. As you know, because we've worked together in the past, you kind of know what types of tea I like to drink. For those of you that don't know, or this is your first episode tuning in, welcome. So for those that you don't know, favorite type of tea, a bit like Matt, is black tea, nice and strong, no milk, no sugar, keep it simple, and you're in for a good day. And I drink a lot of cups of tea within a day, hence my British roots.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Let's get going. Let's learn a little bit more about restricted music. So restricted music. How did the journey begin?
So I was 13 and I was going to a sort of a entrepreneur camp. And at the beginning of the spring, we have to do an essay, and it sort of goes through a process where you get approved. If the essay is good enough, you get approved and you go to this camp. Now, I had a lucky experience to attend that camp for a couple of years. And when I was 13, I was actually awarded the camp's dance with our team. And with that, I was in charge of coming up with the playlist and coming up with the music for that. And I actually ended up DJing the dance, essentially getting the crowd's energy, and all started there. And that's when I really found out that I was good with music, and I really enjoyed doing what I do with music. So that was the ground roots for sure. And then as I got older, I definitely got into more school dances, weddings, corporate events, things like that, and it totally made a difference.
Cool. Can you expand a little bit? What's an entrepreneur camp? I've never ever heard the term entrepreneur camp.
So the entrepreneur camp, it was interesting. So essentially, it was to build the youths, build the youth for the ability to run a camp business. And what we had to do at that was we had to go and we get a loan from the bank. We get all this business stuff. We go get supplies, and then on the final day of the camp, we actually turn our business into a business and start making sales, and selling to the parents that come to pick up their kids and other camp kids that are there, and the counselors, and so it sort of built you for a business and leadership in a way. But it was definitely one of the most fun experiences I had. 7 days out in Cypress Hills, and we do a bunch of activities. There's swimming, canoeing, horseback riding, zip line, all that sort of stuff. And so it wasn't all business sort of talk, but it was definitely, you do this, you do this, you do this, and you learn from that and go in and grow for whatever the future holds.
Nice. Okay, so you started at the entrepreneur camp. Then what happens after that? So you go home from the entrepreneur camp. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And what happens next?
Okay, so when I go home from the entrepreneur camp, first of all, you miss all your friends you make. You've been there for a week. You make a lot of friends. There was roughly 150 to 300 people, depending on the year. And you get to know a lot of people from all over Alberta. So the first thing is when you get home, you go, you add them, you keep in touch with them, and you make a point of reliving the memories of that week with them. Even though it just ended, it was a lot of fun. You kind of relive it. But you can take all the lessons that you've learned. I use mine towards leadership in school and my projects, and then obviously to go into the music industry. I had a lot of leadership help me there because when I started out and I got more into the music, I actually opened an entertainment agency which specialized in like school dances and all that. And because of the training, well, not training, but the experience I had out at the entrepreneur camp, it was definitely an enjoyable and welcoming moment. And again, you learn a lot with that.
Okay, so that's good. And then so what kind of happens after that? You've kept building that interest. What's like kind of the next like major milestone development?
Yeah, so I've kept building the interest. I ended up selling the business that I had and moving into working on myself as an artist, where I was producing music. I was doing shows such as festivals and clubs instead of being there for school dances or weddings per se. I found that I was able to work on myself a bit more that way and do what I wanted to do, explore what I like, instead of having to worry about necessarily pleasing the rest of the world. I was able to do what I want to do. And so when I moved to being an artist, I ended up changing my DJ name and moving everything from where it was to a whole new start. And I definitely noticed a change, a shift in energy, a shift in the flow of things with meeting with people, and because people look totally different on you as an artist than they do as a business, and it's a lot harder to get your name known as a business or as an artist than it is a business. So it was a lot of work.
So you just touched on, you think it's harder as an artist to become more established and well known than a business. Why do you think that?
So I find you have the ability as an artist to interact with people a lot better than necessarily a business, but with that, you have a lot more criticism. You have a lot more, this is how the artist should do it. This is how, blah, blah, blah. That with a business, you're going and you're constantly trying to impress people. And you know that the more impressed people are, the more business you're going to get. And so all you're doing is striving for excellence. Whereas as an artist, you're trying to find those people that you can impress, knowing you can't impress everybody, but still pushing yourself out there. But you have to go and sort of know that even though not everybody's going to like you as an artist or what you do, whether it be music or your style, you're still going to have those people that are supporting you, but they don't support you in the same way as they would if they paid a ton of money to hire you and to use your services versus to see you as an artist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, good answer. Just processing the answer. So obviously there's a lot of freedom in music and creativity.
Yep.
By being able to express yourself, like what kind of like in your own way, what opportunities has it brought you as kind of an artist?
I've been able to express myself at some times where I'm at a really, really high peak, but also when I'm down low and I'm in a vulnerable position, I've been able to make music that I find supports me in my own way. And people can kind of vibe off that. I also find that it helps you grow as a person because you're able to put out what you find as creativity, and you can get the positive or negative feedback and work from that. So it helps you grow as an individual, even if it's not music related. I've grown as a person over the last few years as an artist because the one thing you definitely don't want to do is end up in the spotlight for the wrong reasons. And as you've seen probably on numerous occasions, artists, celebrities, they're all ending up in for the wrong reasons, but not the right reasons. So you kind of learn a lot of things from that in yourself. So, I mean, I personally enjoy that factor of it. So.
Nice. So has, like, to date at least, has music given you the opportunity to be able to travel?
Oh, absolutely. I have been down playing shows in the Dominican. I've done a North American tour with the Neon Run, so I did a lot of U.S. tour dates, Canada tour dates there. I've been in China. I've been numerous other places, and I'm still going. It doesn't slow down, and it never will if I keep pushing myself and pushing my music where I want it to go.
Nice. So what sort of, for those of you that aren't like musically inclined, what sort of like style of music, genre of music do you specialize in or like to create?
So I was really into the electronic for the longest time. I'm finding now the electronic music scene is way oversaturated, and in order to do anything as an artist, you can't be stuck on one genre. You have to be able to flow with the way dynamics change, what people like change. You have to be able to change your music style if you want to keep going up. Otherwise, you're just going to be in the same spot, and you're not going to go anywhere other than that little pool that you got going on. So.
Nice. Can you kind of describe the moment when you got the so first, what was the first country that you played in outside of Canada?
Outside of Canada would have been the Dominican Republic. That one kind of came across as an accident. I was down there for a friend's wedding, and I was talking to the DJ, and I told him that I DJ, and he put me on his decks and said, "Have at her," and half the music I didn't even recognize, and so I was kind of just going with what I could. But he did also have quite a bit of Canadian US sort of chart music, so I was able to work with that as well as some of the stuff that I wasn't familiar with, and that was kind of my first experience, and it was enjoyable. I found that I had a lot of support from fellow Canadians that were on vacation down there at the same time. Seeing another Canadian entertain them in a foreign country. So I found that was pretty cool. But it's yeah, I mean, there's a lot of growing still coming, a lot of opportunities still coming up, and so I'm looking forward to a lot of other countries to explore. Everything is getting harder to come by for visas and stuff, but the more you're willing to work, the easier it gets. So yeah, it's exciting.
Can you talk a little bit in terms of adaptability to like different like venue sizes and audiences and age
Yeah,
range?
yeah, absolutely. I find a whole lot of the shows that I do are 18 plus, and I have no problem with that. Some of the music I play has some inappropriate context to it, um, to say the least. But you know what? People go with it. You have to be able to read the crowd as an artist, especially as a DJ, because you want to keep people on the floor as much as possible. And if people are leaving, um, then your credibility as an artist is shot, and the same with your credibility as a DJ. With the clubs, don't want somebody that kills the dance floor. They want somebody that keeps the dance floor packed. And so with that, um, you learn to overcome and adapt. You start reading what works for the crowd. Okay, this crowd is approximately this age. They like the old school hip hop, whereas this part of the crowd likes a little more of the EDM stuff. And so you start to overcome that, and you start to read the crowd and understand what the crowd likes. And the more you do that, the more people are on the floor, and the more people are entertained by what you do. Um, and then as for venue sizes, it could be one person or it could be 1,000 people, and as long as I give it my all, it shows that I know what I'm doing, and I'm good as an artist. And I don't care how many people are on the floor as long as they're enjoying the time they have while they're there. So
Nice. So how much like preparation do you do for a gig versus like on the fly as you read the audience? What's your routine?
um well, it depends on the show. If I'm
If there's one.
doing yeah, it it depends on the show. If I've got a bigger show, I'll generally try and have a set sort of laid out. Nothing is ever set in stone, but I like to have sort of a layout and sort of a concept to the layout of the music and when I want certain things to be played in certain times of my set. However, you can never set it in stone because you don't know who's showing up and how or what they're gonna like or what they're gonna want from the artists, and so you can do all your best to predict it and record sets or not record, but pre-cue your sets so you know exactly what you want when you want it. But I find unless you're playing a festival and you're getting like the grounds are consistently packed where you don't have people leaving and coming, they're there just to listen to whatever they are listening to. You can't really totally set any set in stone, because you have to go with the flow. If you're not going with the flow, it's gonna burn you out. So
Nice. Okay. As I obviously was reading your bio on your website, do you want to touch on a few of like your influences in the music industry?
yeah, absolutely. One of my biggest influences growing up was Diplo and Major Lazer now. I think that's just because he was a kid that came out of nowhere, didn't have a whole lot going for him, and it was kind of relatable at the time. Like when I lived in Canmore, there's not much of a scene there, and whatever scene there stays there. But moving up here, I've been able to expand my horizons to other areas, and I find that coming out of a small part where nobody really knows where you're from really makes it difficult to grow. And so watching Diplo do it, I was able to sort of learn what he did and how he expanded himself as an artist, and I was able to do that and use what I kind of knew from him. So it's not that I necessarily knew a whole lot, but what I could learn from him was the best. So as for other artists, what got me into electronic was the father of EDM on the mainstream himself, David Guetta. He was definitely a big part of me getting into dance music. I watched him for years and years, and he slowly became the first sort of artist that got electronic music onto the mainstream sort of radios, and it was groundbreaking for artists and DJs because nobody really heard a lot of that. Yeah, okay, there was some here and there, but it was very uncommon to find electronic music on mainstream radios. So having that inspiration of watching somebody grow the music scene out of that little bubble that they're enclosed in, it was really cool to watch. And so he was an inspiration as well. So
yeah, no. Touching on inspiration and David Guetta, if I've got my facts right, he played at the FIFA 2006 World Cup final, and it was like super cool to watch.
I think he also
right?
played 2014 FIFA.
What was it? Maybe it was 2014.
It was fairly recent. But yes, I do know what you're talking about, and I'm finding that he's playing a lot of general televised things, such as, even if you look at Martin Garrix closed out the closing ceremonies of the Olympics last year. So that just goes to show that electronic music isn't in the little bubble it used to be in, and that was thanks to Mr. Guetta there. He absolutely made a difference in the music scene. So
nice. So how complicated is DJing for someone that might be wanting to get into it in terms of equipment, cost? Well, let's look a little bit at the behind the scenes of DJing.
okay,
the stuff you don't see in the spotlight, the pains, the trouble.
Absolutely. I'd say the biggest thing about becoming a DJ is the cost. It is a very expensive hobby to start out with. I was lucky enough to sort of start off with a fairly nice and decently cheap setup, but I slowly grew and got bigger setups and stuff as I go. But that's because I'm in it for the long run. I've made that determination. But getting into it, it's a very expensive hobby, and once you get the hang of it, it's not that hard. The basics of it. As you start getting into juggling back and forth, or scratching or whatever, it gets a little more complicated. It gets a little more into a difficult situation per se, but overall, it's not bad. It's not a bad setup at all. So once you get the hang of the basics, I think you're pretty much good to go. Basics, I would say, starting with beat matching, crossfading, essentially just transitioning between songs. That's what you're going to have the most trouble with, because you want to make that transition as smooth as possible, because you want to keep people going with the flow that they're going with, right? You don't want to go from something from 128 beats per minute down to 75 with no in between and a sudden change. So you don't want to do that too much, because it changes the full energy of the crowd. It changes the flow. It changes everything. So once you get the transitioning and the basics down, it's pretty easy.
For those people, and I'm going to say I'm one of them for now in terms of like DJing stuff, what is scratching and what is is it jumping?
Juggling. Yeah, so scratching is essentially the process of manipulating a track by taking the turntable, and what the terminology came from is when it was vinyl, and scratching the record back and forth with the needle made a manipulated sound. And so that's considered what scratching is, and you can manipulate that into a song or into a beat and continue the layout of that. Now juggling is when you take one song and you have two decks with the same song, and you're essentially playing the same 4 chords or so back and forth between the two of them. So you're scratching into it and you're juggling it and handing it over to the next one and continuing it there and going back to the other one and then continuing it there and going back to the other one and so on. So that's what juggling is. And so that is complicated. I myself have not learned that fully yet, but I'm working on it.
Okay.
But
Okay. So just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, all of what you just explained, you could consider kind of like a DJ effect that you could do within the song that you're playing.
absolutely, yeah. I
So,
wouldn't even, I wouldn't say an effect, more of a, it's a specialized talent. Um, DJs that do that are known as turntablists because that's what they do. They perfect themselves as a turntable artist and juggling, scratching, stuff like that. So I find that the turntablism is one of the coolest techniques that you can use as an artist, well, as a DJ, I should say. Um, and when you see it up close, it is definitely something that you just in awe of. So that's kind of why I want to get into it because I've watched it and it's impressive and I would love to be able to do that. But
as so in your bio, you talk about music and art. You use two specific words. Um, how are they like? Explain what you kind of mean. Are they the same? Do they work together? Are they completely different?
so I find, in my opinion, music and art, the difference between the two of them are completely different. I find the art is the fact that you're expressing yourself in the way of writing what you write or composing what you compose. Um, but like music's music. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that music is a big part of everybody's life. Um, and anybody that tells you otherwise is lying because you can walk down the street and see anybody with headphones in. But for art, um, for the art to come out, you need to be able to have your own creativity, your own writing style, your own unique your unique sound to be able to stand out from others, and that's the art that you create. And so, in my opinion, they're two very different things, but still sort of on the same line.
Nice. So let's talk a little bit like future plans, like what projects, if you can say, what have you got in development?
Well, I've got new music in development. I got an album coming, hopefully here soon. I'm just trying to wrap that up and get that done. With some cool guest artists on that album, so definitely stay tuned for that. But starting April, I am going on a Western Canada tour. Phase one was announced to have 4 cities in that Phase one tour, including Red Deer, Calgary, Lethbridge, and Invermere. And so right now, those are my 2 big projects for music. Where I'm hoping to go after that, I'll just play it by ear and see where it goes. But yeah, as of right now, those are my two major projects I'm working on.
Mhm. So let's spin this the other way. Hey, you got any questions for me? What are you curious about? What do you want to know?
Absolutely. So what made you get into this whole Tea with Mike
Okay, sure.
concept?
So, Teawithmike was a completely like random idea that came to me on the fly. It can so I can't really explain that part, but I can explain the concept. So as I was just like thinking, I'm thinking we're living in 2019. It's a very digital world. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of bad usage of social media and media for all the wrong reasons. So
Agreed.
so I'm like, firstly, I want to put a positive spin back on it. Um, I realized that we become digital and technology is developed, we've lost all of those like soft skills, as I like to call them, that face-to-face interaction, knowing
Yep.
how to hold a conversation without like looking at your phone every 3 seconds. and I see it all the time in my job. I was working the other day, and these two 6-year-olds that were at a sporting event, you think they'd be there to have fun. They were both on their phones. They come up to the window and they're like, "Excuse me." I'm like, "Okay, what do you need?" And they're like, "What's the Wi-Fi password?" And I'm like, "Oh my God."
Yeah,
You
you
should be
can't go
talking
anywhere
to
without
each other. You should be
technology.
having fun. You should be playing outside, all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
So every generation is like getting affected by that. So this is all kind of built to connect with new people, networking, to show the face to show face-to-face interaction, conversation, soft skills, all of those sorts of things are still critical, even though we live in a digital world, a technology-based world, which is how we're doing this.
yeah. Which there is some good to technology. Um, I've noticed a bit of it with the healthcare industry and all that. There's some good in it, but there's far too much negativity in the technology world right now. And so I like your concept to this. I like the way you had the plan for that, and no, I think this is a good thing. I like your style, and I definitely think that you can make this a big show. I'm watching you grow as the weeks have gone, and um, we we still have some viewers. So thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah, for sure. Always, it's always appreciated. Keep spreading the word. Thanks for being here. It is appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for
It's all
joining
about
us.
you. It's not about me. I'm here having fun. I'm doing this for fun. So I appreciate you spending a part of your evening even tuning in. That's definitely a fact. Cool.
Absolutely.
What else?
Um, the what do you think your future holds with this?
So now we're getting to the flip side. So
Yep.
I just want honestly, I just want to keep having fun. I think the best creative work, as you can attest to from what you do, is just when you're like super chilled and relaxed. You have no expectations. You're doing it for fun, and then for all the reasons I've described. One of my favorite things to do is to meet new people and to network and connect with new people. Even though I'm a huge fan of technology and social
Yep.
media, this is still one of my favorite things to do. And and I think the passion for that definitely comes across. And eventually, I just want to keep building and building this, and then hopefully one day this will be a global show, and in my imagination, it'll have this like creative set, and there'll be a bunch of people running around doing like different stuff. So, but it's all about patience. A bit like you, this is
Hard
kind of
work.
yes, and it's a life project, so it's gonna take time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just trying to think. The I can't think of any other questions off the top of my head. I'm sure your viewers have heard this, but what's your favorite type of tea? To tell my viewers that are on this.
Okay, so restricted restricted music fans that are tuning in, like I kind of touched on it at the beginning, but English breakfast tea, Yorkshire tea, it's good strong black tea. You don't want milk, you don't want sugar, you don't want all this other stuff. You just want to drink it the way that the tea was originally designed, right? Created.
Absolutely.
Oh, I was looking at some tea facts before the show, just because I think it'd be fun to educate the audience at the same time. And the fact of the tea fact of the day is: did you know that your tea bag actually loses its like quality after 6 months? And they recommend that you throw it out and get a new one. So don't keep your tea
Really?
bags in the cupboard for too long.
That's a fact I didn't know.
Yeah. So yeah.
All right. I can't think of anything off the top
No,
of
no,
my
I
head.
honestly think that like the energy's been good. So some good in-depth conversation. I think this is a natural place to stop it because I don't like forcing anything and repeating. So guys, this is Tea with Mike, episode number 10. This is restricted music. make sure you check out his tour on his website. It's restrictedmusic.com.